It is now.
We're rolling here on Compton's podcast. Are we live?
No, we're not live. This will be how is that live? Teeny tiny.
Fuck, I don't know your technology, dude.
Fucking magic,
I'm a wanker
man.
here.
Fucking magic.
Star Trek, damn. I mean, how is he supposed to know?
So welcome to Truth, Love, and Peace. I think this makes episode number 4.
A tricorder or a...
It is a tricorder. I'm here with Buzz Kiefer and Chris Newbury, and I have wandered into a conversation about meat eating and brain capacity. And
However,
I
have to back up to the tricorder thing, because if that's a true tricorder,
oh no, not
I think
close.
you could roll it over my body and find out everything that's wrong with me.
There's not even a tricorder, Buzz. Not even a tricorder can explain you. Woohoo! I think of you as one of those anomalies of nature that's just too strange to let die.
You
know what I mean?
For sure.
That's a good thing. I hope I keep being that strange.
Original is impossible these days. It's
back to
be
vegetarianism, though?
Yeah, back to vegetarianism. All right.
I couldn't do it unless I had an endless supply of coconuts and avocados.
Avocados for damn sure.
Well, okay, but why vegetarianism? Like I have my
true.
whole argument.
Why does it have to be all or nothing?
Well, you know what? You get right down to it. It's hard to kill a motherfucker. You know?
Well, but not
it's not
so
hard
much.
to kill a fish, though.
No, it's not hard to kill a fish.
But plants will kill you just as much
True.
as you'll kill them.
True.
Plants are homicidal, man.
You know, I saw some guy on Facebook the other day try to make the unequivocal statement that we are herbivores, and that's just what science says. Period. I'm like, no.
That's not true. That's not what science says.
Not
That's one of the problems.
Basically,
there's too much shitty science out there.
If you're not confused about nutrition and what to eat, then you haven't been studying.
You have no idea what's going on.
You know,
neither does anybody else.
I have this theory, and I don't necessarily say that it's an original theory or anything like that, but it's not so much what we ingest as a diet. It's any given diet, whether it be vegetarianism, pescatarianism, fruitarianism. It's whether you're paying attention to what's going into your body and how it's affecting you. Once you do that, you're going to be healthier, even if it's just eating all meat and fat or whatever it is. You know, if you're paying attention to what's, to your body and what you're eating, that just makes you more healthy, I think.
Yeah, I think that's part of the feedback loop. That people don't pay enough attention to themselves. I think that's one of the things that's going on with celiac disease and a lot of the mental instability that we're seeing, not just from PTSD, but ties into dietary factors that we're killing bacteria in our gut. You know, every time you're prescribed an antibiotic, Daryl Roberts used to tell me, he's like, if you ever take an antibiotic, you better take a probiotic with it.
Really?
And so think of all the times that people are not taking a probiotic to go with something that's damaging their gut flora.
It's been decades since
Right.
I took an antibiotic.
And that has a direct impact on how you feel. And how you feel dictates how you behave.
Well, not only that, but speaking of celiac, with the advent of quick rise yeast, which was only since the 80s, it's not a thing that Grandma was using in the kitchen.
Genetic modification, man, it's dangerous.
Well, it cuts out the process of the rising, which broke down the gluten. So it's much easier for our bodies to digest. Well, no wonder we have all these people with gluten problems now, because the cheap bread we're buying and eating.
Genetic modification is dangerous, but it's also inevitable.
Quick rise yeast isn't even genetic modification, though.
I know, but I was
Right, that's all chemistry.
Yeah,
I understand, but he said genetic modification being dangerous, and I'm thinking, yes, I agree that it is incredibly dangerous. It depends on whether it's in the hands of people that are trying to do some good things,
for the most part,
or in the hands of people that are just trying to make the most profit and block out everything.
Well, that makes it real easy to tell, but there are also people who might mean well and genetically modify food, and
So it's definitely dangerous.
We should be careful with it because it's something new.
But it's here.
Yeah.
And we're gonna use it, so we should just try to figure out how to use it right.
The way I look at it, if you look at it, the grand scope of things, anything we've done in the last 100 years or maybe even 1,000 years is new as far as the evolutionary scale. So we need to be careful introducing anything new. Well, who knows? But we should at least pay attention, like you're saying. We should at least pay attention and be careful and not just shovel whatever's handed to us down our throats.
For sure. I've heard the argument made recently that modern antibiotics are going to be looked at historically as our era's version of leeching and bloodletting. That's how much.
Yeah.
That's how damaging
The barber.
Yeah, well, there's
What
a
he
difference.
needs is a good bleeding.
Wait, I hear you, and I see what you're saying, but
Oh,
at
wait,
the same
vaccines
time,
too.
at least what were we talking about? Antibiotics, or at least have some effect, which leeching and bloodletting did not.
Well,
How
it
do we know
seems
that?
to, or else they wouldn't have kept doing
Placebo
it.
effect.
No, it seems to.
Placebo effect can make anything.
Oh,
seem
and you
like-
do have a point. I mean, sometimes you take fucking antibiotic like 12 days. It's like Granny said on the Beverly Hillbillies when she said they were thought she had like the $1 billion recipe for the cold remedy, and when she finally sold it off for $1 billion, she said, "Yep, just take this, and 12, 13 days later, you'll be just fine." You know.
Did it work?
Well, the point is, 12, 13 days later, you're always fine. You know?
Well, you could just apply that to your point you just made about antibiotics.
That's exactly what I was trying to say.
I don't know.
Anytime
man.
I've ever taken antibiotics, I don't know that it got me better any sooner than I would have.
I do. There's been a couple of instances where I was like, "Oh yeah."
I
that
think
helped.
I think there is some short term obvious.
Now, what
benefit
else
to it.
it did, I don't know.
And then that's where some people say, well, I don't know. Yeah, it's boring. Let's talk about something else. I'm just kidding.
Okay,
We can
well-
talk about anything we want. I'm just
Okay,
fucking
so the
around.
caduceus. Do you know what this is?
Nope.
The caduceus.
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay, so the caduceus is the.
Ancient calculator.
No, that's
Oh wait a minute.
What's that called?
Oh no, the caduceus. You're talking about the.
I'm talking about the coiled serpents.
the coiled serpents, I'm sorry.
You were thinking abacus.
Abacus, yes.
The abacus. Yes, we know what the abacus
Yes,
is.
the coiled serpents.
Yeah, so,
Hermes.
Yeah,
Staff
Hermes,
of Hermes.
and from a genetic standpoint, potentially the first symbol of the double helix DNA, and that ties into the plumed serpent, which
Quetzalcoatl.
right, which gets into some very interesting, some history,
Damn.
some awesome history. Where would you like to? Which one of those sounds?
Helix,
fun?
double helix.
Double helix. Go with it. What do you like about it?
I like the fact that it just, first of all, I'm just believing that it's true because I haven't personally seen it under a microscope. But I like the idea that there is something.
Do you believe Dan Winter though?
Wait, let me finish. I like the idea that there is something that communicates all of the physical information in the body to the next generation in some way, shape, or form. That's what I love about the double helix.
Okay, but that may not be true anymore.
It may not be true and it may not ever been true, but I'm just saying I like that idea.
I like that idea too, but even Darwin had trouble resolving how our DNA passed on information.
Okay. Because I think we were always looking for a chemical solution.
Right.
Dan Winter says it's an electromagnetic solution.
Oh.
Which I like because
Frequency solution. It's
Yeah.
it's vibrational.
Yeah.
It's electromagnetic.
and I like what's his nuts? Morphic resonance. Rupert Sheldrake. I know this is what we talked about last time I was over here. But same thing, resonance.
I mean, yeah. To
vibration.
them, it's basically the receiver, and it's receiving a signal, just like any receiver would.
Yeah.
But it's electromagnetic signal. So it wouldn't necessarily be a chemical story of what happened in the past. It would be like you're plugged in right now. You can, what I mean?
Oh, right. Huh. That's interesting.
Which would explain how psychic people just know things.
Right. How interesting. I like
How
that.
Petrolio, when he's talking about the sun, how the fuck would he know anything about steering the sun, but somehow it just popped into his head like, this is a true thing. Like, somehow the sun has a consciousness, right?
Right.
And it's steering its way through the galaxy.
I like that. Is that morphic resonance?
No, morphic resonance is
No.
Rupert Sheldrake's version of that, where he talks
So wait,
about.
let me do one thing at a time.
All right, I'll let- yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Which no, I wanted to what?
No, go ahead with Rupert Sheldrake.
Okay,
Y'all
so
just keep blowing my mind.
so electromagnetism is white, and Sheldrake's version has to do with the ease of repetition, and so he begins with how easy it is to make a new crystalline structure. And there's a phenomenon that's well documented. The first time you make a new crystalline structure, it's very difficult for those crystals to come together. But every time
Come together meaning what?
form, build, like
okay.
the way a crystal shapes
Okay.
itself. So every time after that you put these chemicals together and allow this crystalline structure to take form, it becomes easier and easier and easier.
What?
I know, right? Like how and why
like
is
polishing a blade or
Yeah.
sharpening something.
Yeah, so the repetition of this action makes it easier to do over time. That's the foundation. And they've studied that for a really long time. That there's a lot of science to back that up. But anyway, so Sheldrake took that and then built out the theory that what's happening from an intellectual standpoint is DNA isn't telling a leaf how to be a leaf. That leaf is taking all of the things that it has in its DNA, and because the way all of those things through epigenetics interact with the environment.
Which you're going to have to define epigenetics, sorry. Oh, yeah, go ahead, say it.
The interacting of the environment with the genetics. So when that happens, there is a resonance that holds the memory of,
Understood,
or the information of the solid.
Okay.
And so the interaction of that
The
vibration
solid being
with
what?
the leaf, the DNA.
Okay.
So you have this interaction between context and DNA, and the context holds as much or more information about the shape that DNA is to grow into than the DNA itself. And that's basically what Sheldrake is claiming with morphic resonance, is there's this interaction that allows that to happen. And Darwin's postulation was that the sperm cells go from your lungs, where they take in information, and travel down to your scrotum and through and into your DNA and
Man,
transmit
don't say
knowledge
scrotum.
that way. You don't like scrotum? It's a medical term.
I know, I'm kidding. Say
So
that
there are
again.
3 versions of the usefulness of the double helix, I guess.
When was the
There's
double
a lot of
helix
those.
discovered? How did they discover it?
Well, in modernity, I am less familiar with those dates, but
Do you know, Chris?
No, but it goes right into my.
We'd like to call out to our audience right
One of my
now.
favorite
to
mysteries.
look
we
this
don't
up.
have a live audience. Should we
And,
start to generate a live audience?
It ties right into one of my favorite mysteries about where did the name come? Where does deoxyribonucleic acid come from, and why, when you break it down, does it say DO, XY, rib of the nuclei?
God, Adam and Eve, rib of the new clay.
Yeah, God in Latin, XY chromosome, rib of the nuclei, which is an old term. Rib of the nuclei is just a phrase that's been around forever.
I would say, first of all,
We've looked it up.
First of all,
It's a mystery because when you look
It
it
is a
up, it's not apparent who named.
all right,
DNA.
let's break it down without the idea that it has some magical significance. Let's just take the day and take it off for just a second, and then you got oxy, right? And then you have ribonucleic acid.
So you're trying to say these other things are coincidences?
Kind of.
Okay.
I'm saying it's worth looking at.
I
You know what I'm saying? And so we got to figure out what ribo and nucleic means. Nucleic is obviously about a nucleus,
yeah.
right? So what does ribo mean? And then you got the nucleic, and then acid, whatever fucking acid means. You know, which is basically the opposite of a base.
I understand all that. That would that
I know.
would be just your basic
But
etymology.
we don't know what we don't know what the day is. If we went with oxy and nucleic,
Those are words that can easily be studied.
so I'm saying we
etymologically,
can fucking look all that shit
like
up.
which I've done, and there's nothing spectacular. What's spectacular to me is the coincidence.
It is a good coincidence.
That DOXY
It's a
rib of the nuclei.
fucking back
There's
of
no
the
way
phone
that's no way that's a coincidence.
Whatever, it's awesome.
Whatever you want to call
We
it.
can agree that it's awesome, right?
Okay, yeah, it's a lead. It's not a coincidence, is what I'm saying.
It's fucking amazing. It's awesome. It's hilarious. It's clever,
Yeah,
and it implies.
to me it implies
secret knowledge, doesn't
it
it?
does, and it implies that the knowledge of DNA has been around a lot longer than we're led to believe.
But with the CRISPR experiments,
Not only that, but English is also a much older language than we're led to believe.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I just heard the opposite like 2 days ago.
No, but, well, from who?
I don't remember.
cite your sources.
Somebody that studies that
English
shit.
and English
Somebody
measurement.
that studies that shit like you
English
guys do.
and English measurement. The pyramid is what the pyramid. It can be broken down into feet, English feet.
Is it feet? I thought it was meters.
Feet.
Yeah, I believe it. That's messed up because that's a really obscure measurement system.
Man, I got a
us it
rehearsal. I got
is.
a recording
To us
session
it
tonight,
is,
by the
but
way,
if
guys.
you look at it like what time?
Yeah, I got about 2 more hours to
Look at
dick
it,
around.
zodiac content.
And then I gotta
think
go.
zodiac.
And in that 2 hours, I need to
12
take
inches
a
per
shower,
foot,
do some
all that.
laundry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
I'm just gonna go ahead and do the fucking laundry because obviously I'm not chomping the best to jump in the shower here. I hope I'm not being offensive in any way.
Buzz is gonna do laundry.
You're so worried about being offensive these days. I love it. It's so not Buzz Kiefer.
Yeah, we were just talking about how he's not even allowed to drive by the Bama too slow.
Right. I can't even go visit Larry.
Keep in mind, this is recording.
Howdy, y'all.
For the record.
I'm sure they've heard
Not that anybody cares. But
stories, urban myth already.
yeah.
Are we gonna get some background noise going for our fans out there? It's called Buzz.
Wait. No, we're not doing laundry while we're recording something.
Okay.
Buzz, if I walked into the studio and said, hey, I'm just going to leave this little machine
He's
running.
got a rehearsal to go to. And just
No, that's okay. It's okay.
close the doors. Turn it on and close the doors.
No, that's okay. I'll figure something else out.
Here, we can always move the recorder.
I hope you can edit this and edit the boring parts out.
No, there's no editing.
Great.
There is no editing.
Taking a smoke break.
Yeah, I want to do that.
It's getting cold.
Well, what we'll do is we'll just move this microphone over here.
Or, the other thing we could do is just, keep recording until the time to roll. And then Chris can push play on the laundry and I'll come back later and get my fucking laundry. That's not too awful, is it?
I think I can handle it.
This is what a
So what
smoke
were we
break
talking
sounds
about?
like on a podcast.
DNA?
Yes, we're
Yeah,
talking about
DNA.
Yeah, well,
That beautiful little bug that keeps crawling through our veins. And our hair follicles. And our nostrils and our eyeballs.
I do believe it's been tampered with at some point.
Fair enough.
You think so?
I do think so.
I don't hate that idea, but I ain't.
Maybe all of it's been tampered with.
Could be. Hell, we're tampering with it all the time now, ain't we? Especially if we believe in epigenetics, right?
Context would alter it, for sure.
So there you go.
No, but if the good audience out there hasn't seen the video by Lloyd Pye, Everything You Know Is Wrong, I recommend checking it out.
Lloyd Pye, Everything You Know Is Wrong.
Is that the one where
That sounds exciting. I can totally dig into that shit.
It's everything. Bigfoot,
Oh,
aliens.
it's just gonna hurt my feelings.
Bigfoot, aliens, DNA, all of it.
So let's, for those of you who don't know, we'll just, some spoiler alerts. Lloyd Pye's theory on Bigfoot is that Bigfoot is a hominid, just a cousin, just a monkey cousin of
Basically,
ours.
the missing link. Lucy, when we find Lucy, we're just finding...
I thought they found Lucy. I thought that was
They
the
did.
whole point.
They did, but that's the point. They're saying, well, that's Bigfoot right there. People say, how come we haven't found any remains of Bigfoot? Well, we have. It's called Lucy.
But
And
people
his theory-
still
his-
think that Bigfoot is running around.
Well, we have evidence. Bones have been found. The stories are not that old in Siberia of a giant orangutan like creature that
I
was.
love orangutan.
Yeah, that was bipedal.
You remind me of an orangutan.
Thank you, because King Louis from the Jungle Book was an orangutan.
Fucking A, wasn't he? Then?
Yeah, he was a smart dude until he turned into an asshole.
Yeah, well, orangutans will do that from time to time.
Yeah. Did you know orangutans are capable of more skills than they execute in the wild to survive? They're smarter than they have to be, but they're smart enough to be lazy and not work any harder than they have to.
I'd say that's true of all apes, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Including myself,
Including-
my
Yeah.
damn
Yeah.
sure.
Well, yeah, Lloyd Pye is basically his theory, and it's not just his, is that Lucy, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, whatever you want to call them, they're the original inhabitants. We are hybrids. So that would just be the genetic tampering, the result of it.
Or just a
Not saying I buy into it. I'm just saying it's a very interesting theory.
It could
To
also
me,
just be a genetic occurrence.
could be.
So, since you are the biblical expert,
Ish.
tell us about the Nephilim.
Well, from what basically, as far as I know, the word Nephilim is not actually in the Bible, but it's
Whoa. Which Bible? The Hebrew
the
Bible?
one I generally read.
Oh, the English Bible.
The
Okay.
English Bible, yes. And it's not an English word, so who knows? I don't know.
It's a Greek word, I think.
But
I
basically,
feel
it has been applied often to a passage in the Old Testament which says, in those days, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, went down and fucked their fucking brains out, and then it stops and closes that statement. And then it says, and in those days, there were giants in the land. Okay? And that is often applied by historical, conspiratists to be.
In those days and the days of Noah, meaning they weren't all wiped out by the flood.
But
We'd have to look at where it falls in the Bible. I can't really remember if it was before or after the flood.
That would be after the flood.
Okay.
Abrahamic times.
Well,
Or
That
before that, but
that's
post-flood.
I mean, we can assume that everything that they said was wiped out with the flood was not wiped out with the fucking flood. So,
Everything in the neighborhood.
just
was probably
most
wiped
of it.
out.
everything
Yeah,
in the
just
neighborhood
most of it.
wiped the fuck
Yeah,
out.
400
And they
feet
probably-
of coastline.
And they probably got,
Right.
a male and female goat, a male and female, this and
Cows,
that, cows.
anything they wanted to eat and
Look
breed.
at the animals left in the Middle East.
Yeah, they didn't take lions and shit on the damn ark. I'm sorry.
But that would have been Thoth, the
Whoa now, you're going way back.
the wisdom keeper, the Nephilim. See, I told you I have been
saying-
studying up on the Anunnaki.
Thoth is a Nephilim, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, there's evidence. The documentation.
They would fit the bill.
Well, there's documentation for everything. I do it every day.
It's the only reason we know you're alive, Buzz.
Hey, Compton.
I'm okay.
Me too. Perfection.
Cold.
Hold on. I'll be right back.
Okay. I'm not sure how much of any of this video we want to record, and while Buzz is coming back to
Yeah.
what do we think? Oh, okay. Well, while we're taking a little break, thanks for tuning in. Truth, Love, and Peace. I think this is episode 4, which is awesome. Buzz Kiefer, Chris Newbury. The bulk of all of this is audio only so far, so none of this crap's on Facebook, which is one of the reasons we can get away with having a fun chat. But yeah, it seems like do we want to let this roll, or do we want to come back to it later?
No, I want to talk about C.S. Lewis.
You want to talk about C.S. Lewis?
Dude,
Okay.
are y'all
I thought you had
familiar
somewhere to
with
be.
Are y'all familiar with the tome Out of the Silent Planet? It was the first in a trilogy of C.S. Lewis. Are we rolling?
Oh, the audio's still rolling. Yeah, the audio's been
Okay.
rolling the whole time.
Good.
Yes, we're still rolling, and we're about to
And
fire
are
up
you-
Facebook if you want.
Or I don't care. That's fine, man. Bring it.
Bring it. So go ahead. You were saying C.S. Lewis.
I want Chris to be involved in this.
Oh,
Because
okay.
even if he is not familiar with it,
He said he's listening.
I know. Okay, well then I'll keep talking. All right, the deal is, they get a rocket ship off to Mars. I guess that's the closest planet, right? Whichever one it is they end up on, that's the one that they're on. It might be Venus. I really can't remember. But the bottom line is that he was like a Christian man, right? And so his was an allegory having to do with God and the Bible and all that stuff, right?
Okay.
And so there were creatures. So he told this whole story according to this beautiful, I mean, it's like visually, just reading it's like a stunning thing to do, but the idea that I'm trying to get to was that there was they call it the silent planet because Satan had fallen and he was the god of this world. All the other planets had their own gods, you know what I'm saying? Even though God of all creation was ruler over all of them, but each one of these planets had their own rulers. And the reason Earth was the silent planet, and the reason it was silent is because none of the other planets could communicate with them. You know, all the other planets, Jupiter and Mars and Venus and everything, were communicating with each other all the time, spiritually, you know, or whatever, however it was. And the Earth was the silent planet. How do you like that idea?
I like it. I remember reading it. It's been a long time though.
I do not remember reading that.
It's good shit.
But I like it.
It's a cool idea.
Him and Tolkien were good friends, you know.
Yes, I did know that, yeah.
Authors.
I did know that, yeah.
In fact, reading the letters between the two of them were really fascinating.
Oh, I never did that.
Letters between Tolkien and Lewis.
Really? Oh, I would love to do that.
Where did you come across those?
I
Do
don't-
tell.
The library. Ladies and gentlemen, there's still this thing called the library.
No. Buzz is a relic of the 1900s.
Whatever. It's all
What
in the
used to take
library.
me 8 hours to find in the university library, I can now find in 1 minute with Google. The same information.
Google's awesome.
Google is awesome. I ain't denying it, but so
Trust
is the
me, I
library.
used to spend
So
hours.
is the library.
And hours in the library.
It's beautiful. And plus they got computers there too now.
It's basically what people do. I mean, they go.
I ain't talking about
Do they-
the little podunk
do they
town
even
library.
use- do they
I'm
even
talking
use
about
the
a
Dewey
university
Decimal System?
library or a New York City library or one of those really fucking massive goddamn libraries that's got everything
Not
under the
everybody has
sun.
access to those.
I know that.
But even if you do, you can get all the same information.
Mm-mm.
Yes, you can.
Nope.
Yes.
Do you remember that Star Trek episode?
Yeah, in the 1900s. This is a whole brave new world, buddy. Do you think that college classes, you think that they're not all online anymore? Everything is done online.
Oh, I know. I was there at the forefront.
I know that. I'm just saying, it's happened.
Fair enough.
The library is obsolete as much as
You know
hate
what?
it.
You're not going to be able to. You pull up the fucking 1926 Encyclopedia Britannica on your fucking internet and show me that I can read every single article in that 30-volume set.
Maybe not that exact thing.
Well, then
But
library
you can order
is
it.
still rock.
And there's going to be things.
Sure you can.
There's going to be plenty of things you can't get in the library that you can get online.
Yeah, you youngsters.
Is one of these one I can use? No?
No,
No worries.
I don't have mine set up here.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I'm not totally sold on the whole Wi-Fi thing.
Books are still better.
Boats are still better?
Books.
I
Oh.
like
Are
to listen
still
to.
better.
You get to be our age and reading straight on the eyes.
I like listening.
I like listening.
I like listening to my friends. I like the fact that you guys go around and study and look up all this shit and
I
then
bet
come
you
down.
could take your favorite book and you could find an audio recording of it that you loved. That you like the voice reading it. It's going to be reading exactly the same text that's in the book.
Meanwhile, I got all these stories in my own head rolling,
Well, that's
multiple voices.
Yeah, we know. For the record, Buzz has multiple voices in his head.
I thought that was only on Tuesday.
Well, Tuesday's my day off, dude.
Tuesday can't be your day off. That's the open mic day.
I know, I meant like in terms of the voices.
I got you.
You know, in New York City, Monday, all the nightclubs closed down, all of the theaters closed down. It's the weekly day off. You can't see a Broadway show, you can't go see a band in a club, and if you do, it's gonna be some wanker ass motherfuckers.
And what is that band sound like? I've never heard those guys.
Wanker ass motherfuckers are actually not that bad.
Are you expecting somebody?
Knocks at the door. No.
I don't know who this guy is. I'm not answering him. How's it going, man?
Good, how you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
We got
Box for you.
Cool.
You can sign right there.
Somebody at the door. Knock, knock.
This is my Christmas present to myself. Wait till you see this.
Buzz is hiding behind the cabinet. I am learning to be a good podcast host. I'm afraid to look at the door. What's going on over there? I'm just kidding. That
Newbury. Thank you, man.
that is a beautiful package. You say
Oh, it's a delivery person.
it's a delivery for Chris.
We'll open that later.
Okay.
Oh goodness.
Now we're talking about some serious gaming, baby.
No, this is movies, buddy.
Next thing you know, he's gonna get one of them things that you hang yourself in, you get all unconscious, and then you go all into the freaking.
Oh yeah, deprivation chamber.
Yeah, but the ones where you're hooked up to like play video games and shit and live in virtual worlds. And
I'm
so,
down.
huh?
I'm down.
Yeah, you sit and twitch, you know, and that's all your like fake muscle movements as you're going through the. Basically, they hook you up in this little fucking system and you
I don't know
twitch.
what you're talking about now, but they have like deprivation chambers
Yeah,
where you lay in the water and it's pitch black.
It's a float tank.
this is similar, but instead of being in the chamber, they basically just tap into your nervous system and fake you into. It's like dreaming, except you choose your dream, it's controlled situation.
I saw that movie too. It was called Inception.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. Because that they actually were dreaming. This other one, damn it, I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, I loved Inception, but I also hated Inception because they did make up some shit that is.
I think I started to watch it, but
It
turned
was-
it off halfway.
Yeah, it was.
Not sure.
It had so much good stuff in terms of, you know, what it means to dream and be lucid. And I understand their little wire connections where they were joint dreaming. That was cool as fuck. But there was just some things about where they had their little mathematical figures of how many layers down in a dream you go, and you subtract so much time, you know, or add so much time, whatever. So if you're 15 minutes, 15 layers down, it could be 1,000 years and all that shit. That's cool.
I thought it was a great
It
concept.
was a great concept, but I thought it broke it down to a level that I thought was too
That's what I didn't like
measured.
about that movie Chappie, I think it was called. It was supposedly like the first,
Oh, the robot.
yeah, the first
Yeah.
intelligent robot or the first self-conscious robot, you know, and I thought, oh, this is very interesting. Well, then all of a sudden they skip forward to we can download your consciousness straight to a computer. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. It was a little too easy there
Right?
to skip to that.
That's not on. I'm just looking to see what.
So now we can just download your consciousness and put you into a robot. Great.
Yeah, well,
what
man,
they're
they
gonna
had
do,
that
though?
shit a long time ago, man. I've seen a couple of movies
Well,
like
if you want
that.
to live forever and they offered you that, would you
Yeah,
take it?
I don't know, I might.
Only if I can be a vampire.
Only if I can turn the switch off when I choose to.
Now the problem is this: if I get to feeling claustrophobic as a fucking, you know, electronic consciousness, I want to be able to have the option to shut my fucking self down and
That's
be
what I
done
just
with
said.
it.
Yeah, as long as I have the option to shut down when I
Right,
want to.
right, yeah.
Do we want to get on Facebook Live? Do you want to be on TV, Buzz?
Why not?
Well,
But
It'll
only
just be
have
over here.
about another, let's see, hour and a half.
We'll keep this camera angle over here, so it'll just be this spot. So if you need to duck out real quick, you can not be on camera. I don't know.
Alright.
It seems like fun to see if there's anybody on Facebook. I'm not really worried about doing the YouTube live and the big video recording. I just want to see if there's anybody that wants to chime in on this nonsense.
Yeah, why not? Question I have is what I do with the damn clothes.
Something's updating. Yeah, so this argument that I saw recently was that the Nephilim are the original slaves of the Anunnaki, and Thoth left as the tribe of Cain to the land of Nod, which is North America, and then peopled and populated the indigenous tribes. And that was one of the explanations for the lack of facial hair in indigenous people, is that was the mark of Cain. What do you know about the mark of Cain?
Oh, dude, I've heard so much crap about that. I don't even want to tell you because I've heard so many different stupid things, and it's all a crock of shit. Nobody knows what it is, and that's the bottom line.
Oh, so it may be a crock of shit.
I'm not saying there was obviously some mark of Cain, or it wouldn't have been such a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Well,
But what that mark
let me
was
ask you
is
this.
what nobody knows.
Let me ask you
The
this,
Bible
Buzz.
doesn't say.
Because sometimes I get confused about what I've read that's in the Bible and what's not. Do they talk in the Bible about the people before Adam? In other words, they were basically...
No,
Okay.
never.
Where does the story come from? Because I know I've read it multiple times about the Nephilim being, yes, the first iteration, and then modern man is kind of the second iteration.
Well, that...
And they do reference, I know there is something in the Bible about how, well, they're saying they're a little too smart, we need to limit them a little bit, in other words.
That's probably just what I told you one time when I was making shit up.
No, you didn't tell me.
That's great. So glad I never cite you, Buzz.
Damn it, here we go, Google.
Yes.
Because that was an idea that I had, and I'm not saying it was original, but I don't know where it came from. I just remember I was thinking about, if you have a superior race, but they have inferior numbers, then they are going to be subject to some serious fucking persecution, right?
I guess so.
They'll make kings and gods of themselves as long as they get away with it.
Yes, they always will. Truth, Love, and Peace. Welcome to it. Episode number 4. I'm hanging out with Chris Newbury and Buzz Kiefer. We've been at this for at least 30 minutes, and all of that will be in the actual podcast. But Buzz Kiefer and I wanted to be on TV, so we decided we'd fire up the Facebook Live and see if anybody wanted to comment on any of our shenanigans. So if anybody wants to chime in, I keep wanting to talk about the Anunnaki because that's what I've been studying the last couple of days. But I was asking you about the mark of Cain and some other stuff. So
well, I already said
anyway,
that. You gotta
what do you feel like? What do you feel like talking about, Buzz? What's going on in your world?
Glory.
Glory. Oh, Shannon, I'm sorry, I missed that. See, that's the problem. When I miss the comments, they go by so fast. Lauren K. Hey, Buzz.
Hey, Lauren.
Shannon. Oh, hey, what's up, Shannon?
Hey, Shannon.
I think this is all Facebook Live is really about, by the way. This is the best part of being on Facebook Live, is talking to people that aren't here.
Damn, this room looks
and having Buzz like right here on my shoulder. This is very nice. Very nice. He purrs if you pet him properly.
I do.
He does. So there are a bunch of people saying hello, tuning in. If we wander off, don't
Hey, why don't
bad.
you ask them what they want to talk about?
What do you want to hear Buzz talk about? What do y'all want to hear Buzz talk about? Let us know. Robbie Holder. I'm doing well, brother. Hope you're doing good too. So what does anybody want to hear Buzz talk about? Chime in, let us know. Donna Slater, Buzz is your hero. She said I need a table. I think that Buzz might have a comment on that. You talk to them. I'll tell you what they write.
I know where we can get one.
I'll keep an eye on this. You tell them a story.
Okay.
Jay Sullivan says how life is awesome on Perdido Key.
It is indeed, I have to say.
Do say.
It's adventure. It's like, good gracious, man, you can't freaking settle down for 5 minutes. And if you do, you better sleep.
Yeah. Before I step on Chris's guitar,
Music. I got a weekly gig.
Tell everybody where it's at.
Purple Parrot, Tiki Bar, on the key. Working for Rick and Chris and Melissa, and they got me on their marquee. Y'all check out my ridiculous photographs on their little thingamabob, you know, sign gizmo. And anyways, anybody that wants to play gets to play. We've been doing a little bit of school of rock over there, which means people that, you know, just work on one song at a time and just want to deliver that one song. We did that a couple of times. Gonna do it some more. Y'all all come out. What else?
Well, that raises a good question. Since some people may not know, where did your musical career begin? Since you're going to stand here and tell stories, tell us.
My mama
For
told
all
me.
those people who don't know who Buzz Kiefer is.
My mama told me that I was teaching the other kids in Sunday school how to sing the correct melodies because it was wearing me out that they couldn't do it right. And so somewhere before I can remember, according to my mama, I was teaching little 3 and 4 year olds how to sing a melody in tune. As far as I can tell, that's where my musical career began, you know. And then later it was, you know, the first grade trip to Nutcracker and all those weird people were dancing around on stage, but I didn't understand none of that, but I understood the music. And then there's the Beatles with their all different kinds of things, and then there was Star Trek. Boom, 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 boom,
See, that's where we got started. TV theme show songs.
Yeah,
TV
man.
theme show songs, really?
Hell yeah,
Me and
man.
my cousin, oh hell yeah, like 18 now. Dun, 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 dun.
B.A. Baracus is running the big old van.
Hawaii 5-0 now. Oh no, wait a minute. How does that one go?
I love it.
I
I got
forgot.
nothing.
It comes together.
Okay, Knight Rider.
Well, how about my all-time favorite is the I Dream of Jeannie.
That's a good one.
I wish.
I wanted Newbury Syndicate
doing
to
that.
learn a bunch of
Keep
theme
doing
songs
that.
like that.
That's all. Just keep doing that. Do
I
that.
wanted the band to learn a bunch of songs like that to play.
I don't remember the rest.
Keep going. Dun, 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 dun.
See, that's
Da 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 da. Ba 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 da da da
See, I
da.
wanted the band to learn
Ba
those
ba da 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 da
transitions
ba da
and breaks
da.
every time you go into a break.
Da 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 da. Ba 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 da 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 da. Da 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 da. Bum ba da bum 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 ba da bum 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 ba da bum 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 ba da bum bum ba da bum bum.
For those of you that are just listening to this, Buzz Kiefer just did a beautiful interpretive dance
What was
to
the show
the
about?
I Dream of
What was the
Jeannie
show about the witch? The guy who had the witch as a
Bewitched.
wife? Bewitched. Yeah.
That was another good one. How'd that one go?
I can't remember how it went, but those were on the to-do list.
Yeah, you'll never see those TV shows again.
Why?
Harvey Weinstein? That's one reason why.
Why?
Sexist television?
Oh well, you can see them. There's got to be some channel on cable that plays those, right?
Oh no, I'm not saying that you can't go find those television shows. They're
Oh,
great.
right.
You should
You
go
mean-
watch them. I'm
yeah,
saying
there won't be new shows.
yeah, there won't be new shows like
Now
that.
they sucked in.
Unfortunately,
Oh,
they
we
ruined it.
should- we
Hollywood
should-
ruined it.
We should do a remake of
Their theme
I
songs
Dream of
were better
Jeannie.
and more memorable than the shows ever were.
Exactly.
We should do a remake of I Dream of Jeannie with what's her name that played in Love Song for Bobby Long.
George Jetson. Nobody did the Jetsons.
Nobody did do the Jetsons. did
Nope.
they?
I don't know the Jetsons theme. Does anybody?
Oh, I know it.
What is it?
Hold on, give me a second. I remember it's in the Lydian mode.
For everybody that doesn't know music theory, Buzz, tell everybody what
All
that
right,
means.
give me a second. I'm just trying to remind myself.
There's nothing in there. There can be though.
Oh, yeah.
Take your
Meet George Jetson.
There it is. There it is.
That's it.
I love how we have two musicians and nobody holding the guitar.
Guitars suck, man. You should have gave us something better.
Saw Kyle. Kyle posted on Facebook earlier this joke about playing acoustic guitars, and it was every meme he could find of somebody busting an acoustic guitar, just smashing it. It was
Luckily,
not something you see every day,
luckily none of them were guys.
Do you remember the?
right?
Do you remember the Black Oak, Arkansas, with their guitar smashing stunt?
Not at all. Do tell.
Well, dude, Jim, whatever his name was, you know, Jim Dandy would stand there and sing, and they were all like, you know, running all over the stage. Started last of the show, he's like standing there and he's finished and he's spinning that microphone in the air, and the guitarist to his left swings his guitar to smash his head off from the front, and the guitarist to the right swings his guitar around and smash his head off from the left, and he stands there like some kind of daredevil and just barely slips down under as they crash two guitars right over his head. And that's the end of their show. It's pretty badass. I mean, it's kind of rock.
I don't know, but I bet you Wild Bill Emerson is the one that started all that guitar smashing, lighting on fire shit.
Okay.
Wild Bill Emerson. Do tell. For as long as I worked in music, I don't know any of these
Wild
stories.
Bill,
so.
he used to come to songwriters. It's like 6'4" Indian, long silver hair and one good eye.
I don't think I ever met
Lazy
him.
eye.
Don't think I
He
ever met him.
wrote If Heaven Ain't a Lot Like Dixie. I don't
Okay.
wanna go.
Yeah, I've heard the song.
Him and Mac Vickery were doing a show like way back, late 50s, early 60s,
Mm-hmm.
before anybody was doing that stuff. And they were doing stuff like lighting this, you know, those monkeys that play the drums. You wind up monkey,
Yeah.
Doing
light
one of
them on
those.
fire and smashing their guitars and doing all kinds of crazy shit. They were doing like Halloween shows.
Huh.
As far as I can tell, they were doing it before anybody.
Well, I mean, you know, maybe so, but realistically, there's probably been people lighting their damn shit on fire since the, you know, dawn of time. When you're putting on a show, you light shit on fire. I mean, come on, you know.
Chronologically, that was the first instance I'd heard of it.
Somebody's got to.
With a guitar. Yeah, surely somebody was doing it somewhere in some universe.
I'm pretty sure if we were cavemen, we'd be lighting our guitars on fire. Matter of fact,
What?
we are fucking cavemen.
How does that make sense?
Well, I'll go along with that. I'll go along with that. That's nicer than my version. My version is we're just silly monkeys. I don't even give us the caveman version. I heard a really interesting theory recently about how the Anunnaki could have been this hybrid race of Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon men that came down from the ice shelf in Siberia around the time of the deluge and the Younger Dryas. And so when they say the people from the heavens came, it could have been that these people came down from these 2-mile-high ice sheets that they had been living on, where the temperatures would have been much higher. No, they would have been much colder. But because of the exposure
We
to
think,
the
you know,
sun-
assuming that we had the same equator, the same poles.
Well, no,
same
there was
everything.
documentation of these indigenous tribes who lived in snowy areas that would live on top of the mountains in the snow because they were closer to the sun during the daylight hours. They could stay warm, and so they applied that same theory and logic to living in these tundra type places, which I think I am desperately related to these people somehow, not desperately, sorry. Because I love that Arctic stuff. I love watching that Alaska stuff. So I think somewhere deep down in my genes and in my DNA is a snow people.
Can I throw it out there?
Go ahead.
And I'm throwing it out there because I want to hear what you guys have to say about it more than what I've got to say about it. So the idea is simply that if you was to consider the entire universe, and everything we know about the Earth, you know, we got a lot of different theories about different kinds of intelligences. But as far as we know, in our communication with other creatures, including ourselves, We're the only ones that are able to see the stars and beyond the stars. The question is, what if we are the eyes of the universe? We are the ones that exist to perceive beauty, distance, and depth.
We here on Perdido Key.
Us all human beings.
Well, I think we're doing a really poor job.
And the occasional monkey. Are you doing a poor job?
Well, I think given my sensory apparatus compared to the sensory apparatus of everything around me, it's pretty feeble. Like, just consider the visual light spectrum for us versus a bird. There's so much light that we can't see that other critters can see. So I'm not sure that our senses are the epitome of anything. I mean, they're pretty awesome, don't get me wrong.
I think he means in a more abstract way, and like
in a more abstract way, being able to understand the different lights you see in the sky.
Right.
So
hey, it's a nice theory.
It is a nice theory. It is a nice theory.
Who knows? I happen to also like the theory that somebody taught us all that stuff, but who knows?
I know. That's a nice one. I just like to be smarter than them.
Well, what if we're not the only thing that uses celestial navigation? And if that's true, well, I mean, what if these aquatic mammals that have intelligence the way that we
don't understand, right?
Right, and we know that there are animals
same as birds that migrate and all that shit.
Right, that follow magnetic patterns.
Or whatever they're following that you assume is magnetic.
So there's definitely some consciousness there that...
I mean, a fly is conscious. Dude, you ever try to take a nap out on the porch on Spring Creek? They know when you got your hand on the fucking fly swatter, and they know where that fly swatter is. No matter how slow you move.
Yeah, I default to Sapolsky on this one, and I'm going to say it's not our ability to observe the stars, it's our ability to, like you said, I'm going to focus in on the second part, abstract beyond the observable. So, like you said, the second part, being able to see the stars and contemplate what's beyond them, that's the part that I think is really special. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not just the observing, because every
Which I think is what he was saying, you know, it's not just about the physical light spectrum or the audio spectrum. Or, because we are very limited. If you want to limit us to
no matter how smart
audio and visual.
Even if we are the eyes of the universe, we're still not the smartest motherfuckers. I mean, if we're the smartest motherfuckers there are, then, you know, that's cool, but here's the other thing that's part of my theory. Here's another thing that's part of my theory, is that even if the universe tends towards life and a predominantly intelligent species, and even if you could imagine that there are thousands of other predominant species, intelligent species out there, that when you think about the distance between the stars, it could, and the vastness of time, it could still be that we're the only ones, even if there's been 1,000 before us, and maybe 1,000 after us, we might still be the only ones right this fucking second. They can see on the level that we see.
Could be, but I doubt
it. That much credit. I see what you're saying.
You don't know any better.
No, I don't. And that's exactly why I don't give us that much credit.
Good answer.
Well, and that comes out of the conversation about artificial intelligence. What happens when we turn on the artificial intelligence and come to find out what we think of as smart, because we're the benchmark for, is shite compared to what real problem solving looks like. Like real consciousness,
let me
real
say
perspective.
this, we're at a point where if it becomes real, we lose the phrase artificial intelligence. It's either intelligent or it's not.
Right,
and if it is, it's not artificial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it might be machine intelligence, but it ain't gonna be artificial. It either knows or it don't know.
And I'll tell you at the point I believe is when it can fool me into thinking it is a human.
The Turing test?
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's more good enough. Yeah,
because I've never seen one come close yet.
Well, they have a few, like,
the one that can conversationally fool me into thinking I'm talking to a real person, even if it's on the phone. That's when I'll be convinced.
So here's my problem with the Turing test. It's dangerous because it allows an artificial intelligence to manipulate us up front.
Maybe so, but hey, it's going to happen regardless. I'm just saying that's what I'm going to believe that we.
That'll be the moment.
That's when I believe it's actually intelligence.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The
And
Turing test
artificial
is good.
intelligence is never
If
going
I
to
can,
happen.
if I can throw it
it's
for a
gonna
loop,
happen.
No,
if I can
it's
throw
gonna
it for a
happen.
loop, and it doesn't adjust and it doesn't learn,
May I say this?
We're
Artificial
getting close on that one though.
Artificial intelligence means that somebody else is in control of what appears to be an intelligence. It's not going to be.
That's a puppet master though. That's not it.
Well, that's what.
Or are
modern
we talking
intelligence-
about programmed intelligence? Like,
But if it's programmed, it ain't going to be intelligence. It's got to be free to think.
okay, so we're narrow AI versus general AI, right?
I'm not
so
sure.
narrow AI is topical. Like
Well, it's like
chess
playing video
thing.
games. When you played video games as a kid and you were playing against the Nintendo, you could always find some little loop that you could exploit.
Right, up, down, left, right, A, B, A, B.
Well, no,
select
that's
start, whatever,
different. That's a
right,
program
cheat
sheet.
code.
Yeah, but I mean, you could always find what they call an exploit.
Loophole.
And the program's never going to learn. It's never, maybe because it doesn't want to, I don't know, but it's never going to learn and change its ways.
Mm-hmm.
Intelligence means when you go online, you start playing people online.
You can have a revelation.
Exactly. And that's the big difference between playing against a Nintendo or playing somebody online. Those tricks
Right.
don't work against humans because they're smart, they learn, they adjust, they adapt. So that's what intelligence is to us, to me. I mean, when it can adapt enough to the point that I can't even tell the difference, that's when
My understanding.
that's when we will have created intelligence.
But isn't that a terrifying moment when you
Maybe
think
so,
that you
but-
flip the switch and the first thing it does is reprogram itself without all of our stupid?
I mean, it's
nonsense?
it's already sort of doing it. What was it? Was it Google that created that artificial intelligence that started creating its own language?
Yeah, it did. They had to shut it off because
Yeah.
they couldn't figure out what it was saying.
Yeah, it was
And
talking
They created
down-
a code out of English. They taught it English.
Right.
And they shut it down. See, that's what I'm saying. That's more like what I'm talking about, where maybe a machine thinks for itself, but realistically, probably not. That was probably some weird little programming anomaly, or some little virus that somebody did just
Maybe
to fuck
thinking
up
for
people's
ourselves is
minds.
just a program anomaly.
It's a possibility. There's one guy, he's a mathematician that was a physicist, and I wish I could remember his name, but I don't. But he postulated this theory where the entirety of the universe as we know it could be jump-started with 2 lines of code.
What is jumpstart?
Yeah.
You could.
2 lines of code would be all you would need for the entire universe.
That's
And
like
he-
the Zarathustra
And he had it
code.
booked this
Oh,
thick.
you mean to start the Big Bang or whatever?
He didn't necessarily go with the Big Bang, I don't think. He had a whole different thing going on. I wish I could remember his name because you'd probably love it, but it was mathematical shit. If you weren't a mathematician, you wouldn't understand a fucking thing he was
I
saying.
think all you need is water and then a charge applied to it, right? Isn't that what didn't they create life recently, supposedly like this?
One of my
I heard it.
favorites. One of my
Applying
favorites.
Charges.
I hadn't heard it.
Something
Yeah.
just in the
Well,
last
and there's
couple-
also the
last couple of
law,
years.
the law of thermodynamics, the second law of thermodynamics that says if basically
Any system that
life-
does not have energy input into it will disintegrate, and any system that has energy put into it will become more complex, right?
right, therefore life.
Not necessarily.
Okay, tell me why not.
Well, because who's to say life is the most complex thing?
But it's a form of energy consumption.
It is, but that doesn't mean that the second law of thermodynamics dictates that life will come into existence.
You don't think so?
No, I don't.
In a universe full of energy?
I don't.
I think it means that of course it comes into existence.
Well, back to Dan Leonard, he says it's more about charge dissipation. In other words, how much you can
Oh,
take
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
charge.
Mm-hmm.
If you can take it enough, you can live inside a lightning bolt.
I'd like to do that.
If not, then you basically die like we do. You know?
I'd like to not do that anytime soon, for
Well,
damn sure.
The energy's out there. There's an infinite amount of energy in the universe.
Well, and the claims.
Why
that-
can't we just use that energy to,
Some of
rebuild-
it's a long ways away.
Why can't we? No, it's not.
Maybe
It's all
not.
over the place. Water, just a glass of water has enough energy to blow up a city.
Hell, human beings have enough to put into little pods and create a matrix to fool everybody into thinking they exist.
Exactly. But I'm just kind of starting to wonder why we have to pay a power bill when we're hurtling through space at how many millions of miles an hour? I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of energy around us, so why can't we harness some of that?
Well,
Are we going to have to pay power bills forever?
I think the reason that we can't do lightning is because you cannot predict how strong it's going to be. And so you could have a fucking capacitor that just gets blown to smithereens, or you might catch a lightning bolt. But ultimately,
I'm not talking about lightning. I'm talking about there's millions of forms of energy out there. I'm just saying, hypothetically, should we always have to pay a power bill, or
Nope.
should we technologically be on the verge where we can have some sort of free power?
oh man, we got free power.
No, we don't. Power companies hold sway in all
I
kinds
just paid
of
$150
nonsense.
for mine for the month.
Yeah, hey man, I run my AC like it's a full-time job, and
I mean, I'm not
it
saying that's
eats
a
up
whole
power.
lot.
No, you're right.
Some families are paying $600 a month for their fucking power bill. That's
God.
bullshit.
Yeah, and some of the technology that I've seen in just the advance in solar cells. I saw a good article on people always talk about the battery issue, the storage issue, and solar cells are not chemically efficient, and they produce all this additional waste. Well, and the articles keep coming out every 3 months that are breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough. Basically, we're eclipsing Moore's law, and the chemistry.
Moore's
in
law
solar
being
cell-
what now?
Moore's law being the doubling of technology approximately every 18 months.
Oh,
It's
that's
the doubling of the capacity of a system. Technically.
Problem is, Moore's law didn't account for human stupidity, but yeah, go ahead.
No, it didn't. It did not.
hey, you know what I think too, man? Because
But it's
like,
more and more
Human
feasible.
stupidity
It's
is
more and more feasible.
Wait.
it's holding a lot of it back.
Am I interrupting you? If I
No, not at all.
No,
Not at all. I was rambling
All right.
on to say that it's,
So,
we're getting
Isaac Asimov wrote this trilogy, The Foundation, which implied that even no matter how complex and complete a system can be, a thing they called in that trilogy a mule could fuck it all up. So,
A wrench in the works.
is that right? Yeah, the mule would be like a wrench in the works. And so, anyways, if you look as far back as like when was Francis Bacon, 1600s, he was already predicting the communication through lines and trunks and devices which when put to the ear would greatly assist in hearing and shit. But then nobody predict no wireless communication. I think Tesla was the
Tesla.
mule.
no, Tesla predicted wireless.
Tesla, he didn't predict it, he fucking invented
No,
it.
you're saying
That
he's the
too.
mule guy. He's the wrench in the works.
I'm saying he's
Okay.
the mule.
Oh, yeah, okay. I see.
He's the guy that all
He came
their
along.
plans and everything they were working
This is the
towards.
first time in my life I've ever seen this kind of technology where without plugging something in and actually, making contact, I just put my phone down there and it charges. Wireless charging.
How about that?
Chris has a wireless charger for those of you listening.
Anybody else seen anything else like that in their life?
No, that's new, man. But that's exactly what Tesla talked about.
Right.
And you
Talked
can
about
see-
my fucking
He
head.
invented. Yeah, he invented. And you can see examples of that. If you can build one, you take a charger, USB charger, split a cable, and you can set it up to where you can wirelessly charge your phone. You can build one at home.
So yeah, sorry power companies, but you're obsolete.
We're on to you. We're
Hey,
on
let me
Yeah,
t-
we're
there's
on to you.
there's one little quote.
We're phasing you out.
There's one little
Of our
quote
lives.
from Tesla that I read in a book. I haven't researched to know for sure it's true, but it would speak to the kind of man he was. If
Broken,
it's,
destitute
if
when he
it's
died?
true. No, not broken and destitute and never.
Yeah, it was. It was a sad and unfortunate situation that he was not a hero, glorified, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, go ahead, Buzz. I get upset about it.
So Tesla was busy on to the next thing, and he had plenty of money at the time and plenty of assistants. And one of his assistants came to him and said, "Hey, Morricone just shot a signal across the Atlantic Ocean. They're trying to give him credit for inventing your radio broadcast." And Tesla's like, doing whatever it is he's doing, clinkety clink, tinker tinker. He says, "Morricone's a good man. Let him have it. He's using 12 of my patents."
Hopefully that's true.
Hopefully that is true.
I don't think he was destitute. I think he was
He
in a
lived in
hotel.
the fucking one of the grandest hotels in all the world
Yeah.
till the day he fucking died. There's
So he
no
couldn't
way
have been
he was
destitute.
No.
Did you really?
Yes.
What bothers me is that the whole J.P. Morgan cut his funding over the free distribution of energy thing. Like that's because that's the clash of two ideologies.
I know.
So they didn't so much screw him as they did us.
Right.
Yeah, and so
Exactly. Oh no,
I get a little righteous
they
about it.
took care of him for the rest of his life. There's no telling what kind of shit
Well,
they confiscated
at least they
the
took
day
care-
he died.
That's another huge
At least
thing.
they took care of him.
When they confiscated his lab, that's
Ain't no
that's
telling what
messed
they
up,
got.
Man. That's really messed up.
No
Because
telling what
that's-
they got.
So that gets back to history.
Hell, they might not have actually confiscated that lab. Here's a nice sci-fi idea. The lab is still there. They couldn't pull anything out because they didn't understand how it worked.
It
And
was
so
all-
they just fucking blocked off the room, and now they've had like CIA scientists in there for 50 years, you know, just fucking trying to figure out what kind of shit he had going on.
Well, that would make a lot of sense because if you look at the claims that we reverse engineered UFO technology to get to radio broadcasts and all that good stuff, does the timeline match up for his death, the transfer of information to the government, and the dawn of cell phones and
The alien reverse engineering was just a cover story, in other words. And,
yeah,
yeah.
and they really stole it from Tesla.
That sounds a little, I mean, once again,
Sounds
Occam's
plausible.
razor, right?
Yeah.
That makes a whole fuckload more sense.
It's like we were saying earlier, if you pretend to be a caveman and then put yourself in a lot of these positions and try to figure out the truth,
Let me
shit looks
tell
a
you
lot
what
simpler.
Let me
Yeah.
tell you what I used
Yeah.
to do when I was a caveman.
You're still a caveman.
Because, well, I'm talking about when I had to hunt for a
Turn
living.
this heat down.
I didn't like stalking and running around the woods and having to confront some motherfucker that might actually kill me, you know. So I figured out a way to haul a rock up into a tree, and I would sit there and I would nap all day until some delicious looking thing wandered under my tree at just the right moment where I was able to drop
Opportunistic caveman.
that fucking rock on his head and drag that motherfucker back home and make, you know, my cave woman gut and cook that thing.
By make you mean ask her nicely?
Absolutely. Damn right.
That's the way all cavemen are.
It's been the same from time immemorial, my brother.
That's right. That's right. Happy wife, happy life.
Right? Did y'all ever see that? It's a cartoon. You can get it on the internet. It's called In the Rough. It's about a caveman named Raw.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's some funny ass shit, man.
All right, I keep wanting to get back to the Anunnaki thing. Chris? It's been hours now. Hours. What do you know about the Anunnaki, man? And this whole coming to
Not
America
much,
thing?
but I suspect a few things.
Do tell what you know so okay. So
What he suspects.
yes, what you've suspected or come up with. What I've come
Like
up
I
with.
said earlier, I suspect there's some kind of genetic manipulation, and they would be the prime candidates in that
So
story.
when and where? did
Who
you
is
get
they,
that about,
by the
though?
way?
Don't know.
Was that Inky?
Then why do we have a name for them? If we don't know who they are, how do we even have a name? Is that
Because the clay tablets that came out of
Yeah, and they
Sumer.
it goes. I mean, there's Zachariah Stitchin. You know, I don't speak Sumerian cuneiform, so I can't go back and verify what he's saying. Some people say he's full of shit. Others say he's done a good translation. But there's also
boatloads of
let's not
evidence.
pretend that ancient cultures don't have these kinds of myths. I mean, all of them are full of them. So it's nothing new.
right?
It's not like it's an anomalous type thing to have myths about gods that came down from the sky.
Right, but I also have to say this, if I may just interject for just a second. The idea that you have carvings on caves and stories about this, that, or the other thing, and everybody wants to think that that proves one thing or another, when really it could just be guys making up stories like we do. You know, it could,
All I'm saying is that the story of gods coming down from somewhere and involving themselves, let's say, intimately with man, is nothing new. It's
of course not.
every corner of the globe has that same.
We still have it right now with
So
our
that right
Hollywood
there-
movies, our government-funded
Right.
fucking
True.
Hollywood movies.
True.
Trying to tell us the same shit they told us way back then.
Maybe It's all just part of the propaganda.
That's all from, I mean, it's a nice idea.
I mean, and it doesn't have to be aliens. It doesn't. I mean, like he said, it could have just been some other. I mean, if you want to break it down into a real materialistic, minimalist philosophy, it could have just been different hominids, different apes fighting each other and meeting, and you know.
And you know that's what I prefer to believe.
Well, without getting into the Anunnaki, without going all the way to aliens, we know, we have more than enough evidence to say that we know the Aboriginal cultures of Australia have an oral tradition that has maintained a contiguous culture for 75,000 years. So
Hindus, same way. We just chose as Westerners to not believe that. We just chose
Right.
to say, well, they just heard their
Man.
their math was wrong, or bless
If you
their
talk to
hearts.
McCormick, he won't even believe that that it's an Abrahamic religion. He thinks they hijacked it later. You know.
Oh yeah, well, it's
Can we
possible.
edit that?
no,
No.
you can't. There is no editing. It's okay, Dave.
He ain't
Dave,
gonna be watching.
Dave will get his chance to give his version
Okay.
too. It's quite all right.
Yeah,
Dave loves these conversations too. Dude, we're talking about Dave McCormick. We love you, Dave. We'll talk.
Love
to
you,
soon.
Dave.
We'll get you in on this conversation since you have.
I hope I represented you properly. I don't think I said it wrong.
It's okay. He can clarify for himself. It's okay because I've talked to Dave about this stuff, and I love hearing his version of it. It's everybody has their own version, in case anybody's wondering. And
Well, but here's what
So,
I
yeah,
think
don't
about
feel
that
bad.
ultimate division that we're talking about is that until you can get Abraham to sit down at the table and comfort his two sons, Ishmael and Isaac,
how do we get to that? I thought we were talking about.
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't either.
You know me, I'm always going to veer back to the Bible.
Well, I'm interested to see how the Bible correlates with some of the new information. Like I'll pull it up for us next time. But there is this chart that has the lists of the gods, the different names of the gods in different religions, and they all line up. You know, over all the different major religions,
Yeah.
Egypt, Greek, Roman, Zeus, and all of those
But then,
line up, and then they line up with Mesoamerica, which is
Yeah,
but
that's-
then,
like we're starting to make some really big connections, or I've been seeing these connections that I've never seen before, and it's freaking
but then
amazing.
you look at the monotheistic religions, and then all those gods that that the other religions have will be manifested in the folklore of the heroes. You understand what I'm saying?
manifested in the folklore of the heroes.
Yeah, the heroes become, you know, the gods are the heroes of battle and shit. You know what I'm saying? Thor was some guy, you know. I'm talking about the monotheistic religions because they won't claim a god other than the one. You know what I'm saying? And so then their heroes end up correlating with the gods of the polytheistic religions.
Yeah. So just because there is this adopted process of culture, or an annihilation of culture,
Not so much. I don't like a fatalistic view on what's happening. What is happening is the world is growing up by itself. This is where Chris and I disagree. I don't believe there's been, even if there has been conspiracy theories that have been trying to control
You
and
don't
manipulate
understand
human
my
people.
viewpoint here.
Well, let me finish, then I'm sorry if we don't disagree. But what I'm trying to say is that even if there have been secret societies that are in control of governments that have tried to manipulate us over all these years, certainly they're successful up to
That's
a
why
point.
I say you don't understand my viewpoint, because I've never disagreed with that part of it.
Well, then there you go. But still, there's those of us who are enlightened right here and right now. You know,
I think the measures of control are the made up parts. So you've got the calendar, you've got the money. What else do you need?
My point is just that what we
I
don't,
like a calendar. I don't like
what we
money.
don't understand, and what we're meant to not understand, is that conspiracy is the rule, not the exception. That's just the way it works. It's all been a conspiracy.
Right.
In fact, the study of history, if you just study history, it's basically the study of conspiracy. I mean, you're studying
Right.
revolutions, cults, wars. It's all conspiracy.
Right, yeah.
100%.
History, also known as the things they didn't tell you.
The things we do for love.
history, and then all of the left out bits. All of the losers.
That's where I like
That's how it's in.
I like the
Conspiracy
left
is
out
no
bit.
mystery, is my point.
I
It's
like
no
the
mystical,
left out bits.
It's no mystical mystery. It doesn't mean there are people sitting around in black robes
It's just the other side.
around a crystal ball.
Raping
although
children
wait a
in the
minute.
name of Yahweh.
You
or
don't think they're
whatever.
sitting around a crystal ball until you see the pictures from Saudi Arabia.
I mean, I've sat around a crystal ball. There ain't nothing wrong with a crystal ball. It's just a fucking crystal ball.
Yeah, well, it depends on the look on your face, though, at the time.
Oh, well, you know, but if you're any kind of performer,
That's when it's like, whoa, buddy, what are you doing there with that crystal ball?
you
I don't know, Buzz. You and a strobe light and a crystal ball. I'd have nightmares.
Yeah, and
I love you
and
and all,
I do have nightmares, by the way. No, actually, I've purged myself of all nightmares. That's a lie. Good gracious.
I'm gonna have
I just don't wake up
to go to the
screaming
store pretty
anymore.
soon.
Yeah, we're 38 minutes in, and we've kind of been all over the place.
Well,
we
we've
can-
sort
we
of
can
stayed
wrap
on the
this up.
Anunnaki.
Well, we knew it was going to be 10 minutes.
See,
It always is,
that's
but-
the other thing. I would tend to believe Stitch unless if there was no corroborative evidence. But there's all kinds of, like you said, there are other gods with very similar names. You know, you can break the word down. Anu,
Right.
Anu appears all over the damn place. I mean,
Right.
you know,
And Yah,
yeah.
Yah and Allah, it's all the same
Naki is
damn
very
thing.
similar to Nagi, which is an Indian from India, the country, not American Indian.
And the Book of Enoch and the name of Mexico City, which was Teanocticon, something like that. Tenochtitlan.
Tenochtitlan, yeah.
Yeah. And so you've got the Book of Enoch, which is, as from the biblical expert standpoint, Enoch being the father
Book of Enoch.
Methuselah.
No, because the Enoch though is non-canon though. You know.
Yeah, it's not in the.
Canonical.
Yeah, it's non-canonical. It was not included.
It's considered
Well, there you go.
apocrypha.
There you
Yes,
go.
exactly.
Because they talk about Enoch residing with the gods, who is the father of Methuselah, who is the father of Noah.
But why should we let a bunch of Greeks and Romans edit out parts of the Bible they don't like? I want all of it. You know. I mean,
Yeah,
just
for
give me the
sure.
whole volume.
The Gnostic text. Bring on the Gnostic text, man.
I don't
All of
I
the
don't
above.
believe in apocryphal texts. That's
No, because that's history. Like, if you
Right.
look at it from the standpoint of history, that's where you get into, you can't just call it an apocryphal
or
text
should I
because
say,
it's
I
not
don't
the
believe
version
in
of history
canon.
you like.
I don't believe in canon. You know, the Catholic Church, whoever wants to be the authority, no, they don't get to tell me which parts I get to read and which parts I don't.
Yeah,
you know?
whichever side says we're right, fuck those assholes. They're immediately wrong. They're like, nah, let's put all the
Let's just,
information out on the
can
table.
we say that they are immediately suspect?
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
I
Because
like
they're
it.
not always wrong. You, the three of us, could sit around and make a decision. And, you know, anytime you got to do
I never said anybody was wrong. I said I want
I know,
the whole
he did.
version.
I did.
He didn't say that either. He said, fuck those assholes.
Well, I'll tell you this: there are circumstances in any situation
When I
where
want a
we
volume,
can
they're
know
automatically
people
wrong.
people that tell you they
And I
know,
quote.
people that tell you that they know things that can't be known are immediately wrong.
This is what I think, and
No
that I
problem
think is
saying.
related to what you're saying. Anybody that is absolutely sure they are right are in no position to even think that they're
That's not even my point. My
Yeah,
point
I agree
is,
with that.
my
That's
point
fine.
is when I'm studying, any piece of literature, whether it's for religious or historical reasons, if it's edited, I want to know, and I want to know what was edited out.
right. Sure.
And I want to know the
And
counter.
Canon doesn't believe that. Canon says no, you don't question.
No,
that.
it
You
was
just take what
decided however
take what
long
we
ago,
give.
and that's what it is. Yeah.
So
you know.
our whole, the whole Western idea of the Bible has been distorted from the beginning.
Well, let me tell you my idea of the Bible on a grander scale of things, and I'm really talking Old Testament and especially like Genesis and all that. To me, what was happening is obviously the Jews were conquered however many times, their libraries burned. So what we really have is a finally written down and preserved text of folklore that have been passed down since the beginning of their entire culture.
Of course.
Which they relate. So to me, that's what makes that so exciting. Not because it's the Word of God because it's a particular people who have done their God almighty best to keep track of everything as best as they can, regardless of whatever political bullshit they've faked along the way. They were determined to keep that story alive from the beginning of the caveman
Which
days.
just proves, gives more credence to my point. If you're going to edit and take books out, I want to know. I want to be able to read those and see what you edited out.
Sure, but who even knows? What you're going to do, you know what? If you want to really know the story, you go get those guys, and they probably won't even talk to you, but there are guys still in the Hebrew religion who have every word of the Bible memorized, or at least a portion of the Bible. They have them there. It's like a priesthood who has every jot and fucking tittle memorized.
Oh, yeah.
So that if the libraries are burned, they still have that information. And one guy might have this portion, and one guy might have this portion, and some Grand Meister might have the whole damn thing memorized, but you would have to kill all the Jews.
First thing I'd ask him about is cannabis in the
shit.
Bible.
Huh?
First thing I'd ask him about is cannabis.
They probably wouldn't even have a conversation with you, man.
But why not? When biblical scholars tell us that one of the most likely interpretations is that Jesus was a euphemism for psychedelics, and that the majority of what was going on in early Christianity was paganism, Gnosticism, altered states of consciousness, and sex rituals.
That's an interesting concept.
The theory was not just theorized, but that opinion was put forth by one of the gentlemen who transcribed the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Okay.
I'll think of his name in a few minutes. He wrote a great book about it. So, and that speaks to the difference between our alcohol-based society currently versus a psilocybin-based society previously, which also gets back to what we talked about where we began this conversation in protein involved in our ability to process information, and Terence McKenna's theory of the enlightened ape because of following cows around and eating mushrooms. How about that for a bow?
Hey, man, you know what? I mean, to me, it's a concept that I've pondered many times in terms of the fruit in the Garden of Eden being some kind of psychedelic that woke up the brain beyond meat, brain growth. That's why.
Well, there's another thing that you can go to every corner of the world and it's there in their tribal culture and their religions, and they all have shaman medicine and.
Do the Jews do the mushroom?
Oh yeah.
Like currently?
Currently, I don't know.
Yes, they do. If you look to they don't use mushrooms, but they do use altered states of consciousness, and they are the guys that are the whirling dervish, which that may not be Jewish, but it's a Eastern religion, and I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, it's like pre-Abrahamic.
But it's a form of physically induced trance that mimics an altered state of consciousness.
They're called whirling dervishes because they spin around until they're so dizzy that they basically hallucinate.
Yes, and the reason they do that is tied to the stories of their creation, which have to do with the spinning of the disk of light and bringing a new light and universe into.
I'm not convinced, buddy. You're just in.
Yeah, like it's
That
crazy
sounds
stuff.
really good to me.
The whirling dervish.
Try it out, bud.
Spinning of light to create.
They do. The seraphims. You know about the seraphim, right?
I know a little bit about seraphim.
Mr. Biblical. Come tell us about the angels and the
All right, you want to hear about the
anointing of light. I want to hear specifically about the seraphim and their the beings of light.
No.
No, Buzz Kiefer's going to talk about what Buzz Kiefer wants to talk about. This is what we're going out on. Take us out,
So
Buzz.
basically, this is the pre-Big Bang universe, okay?
The seraphim.
There was a God, a centerpiece of all of everything. And there were particles that were coming around it. And some of them were seraphim. But there was such a radiation of glory coming off of that centerpiece, the thing that they called God, that everything was in a constant state of ecstasy. And everything. So when they were surrounding the throne and casting their crowns and saying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty," it wasn't just, they were just, kissing his ass. They were in a fit of absolute ecstasy at the hands of this massive thing that was the beginning of all things. That's the seraphim.
How do you do?
Circling around the throne.
Good. Good. I don't know. What do y'all think? How do you do, Facebook? Did fucking awesome. Thank you, Buzz. Beautiful. All right. On that, I'm going to step back into frame. Truth, love, and peace. Thanks for joining us. We're going to take off. And love you, Facebook Live. We'll be back soon. There you go. So Facebook's done. The podcast is still recording. So we'll knock this off real quick.
Hey,
Bye-bye,
y'all.
Facebook.
Thanks for chiming in and hanging out.
Thank you, Buzz Kiefer, for telling stories.
My
Chris,
pleasure.
thanks for having us.
My pleasure.
Hopefully we can do this on a recurring basis. Buzz, you want to go ahead and commit to doing a Bible podcast with me?
Yep.
Doing a thing? I know Chris is down to do something
As
regular.
long as I can have my Bible right in front of me.
Oh, yeah. This will be your segment. I'm just going to guest host for you. How about that? That'll be fun. Cool. All right. Truth, love, and peace. Thanks for joining us.